I'm Nate Savage, and this is my friend Jordan Leibel from Pianote.
Hey guys.
And today he's going to help me teach you or show you how to play guitar more like a piano. And you may think, that sounds really weird, Nate, how are you going to do that? But, you know, a lot of guitar players, you know, they learn their open chords, like, for example, G, C, and a D.
Yeah.
1-4-5 progression in the key of G, that's what we're going to be working with here. And maybe they'll learn some bar chords, like an E-shaped bar chord, and be able to play that G, C, and D. Or if you get really lucky, you know, if you're really motivated, you'll learn the A-shaped bar chord too and play G, C, D this way.
Right.
Now, those chords are great, but they can get muddy and they can kind of limit your options, especially when you're playing with a band like a piano player or like full band if you have another guitar player even playing with you. So there are some better options out there. And if you've been following the little series we've been doing here on YouTube on the cage sequence, we're going to show you how to make best use of those chords by thinking more like a piano player. When I was about 14 years old, my sister was in music school in college, and she was learning piano and stuff. I was like, oh, I think it'll be cool to learn another instrument, you know. So I was pretty excited about it for about 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Until she showed me, I was like, hey, show me how to play a G, C, and a D on the piano. And she showed me, and I was like, that's way too hard. I have to, first of all, I have to think about all the notes, each single note in each chord to make them. And then I can't just learn one shape on guitar, you know, like when you learn a bar chord shape, you can move that around wherever you want. One shape, all the major chords you need. It wasn't like that at all, so I was really disappointed and kind of put off by it. And I'll get Jordan to show you exactly what I'm talking about. Play a 1-4-5 progression in the key of G, G, C major, D major, in just the most efficient way possible with your right hand.
Sure. So here's the way I'm going to play those 3 chords. Here's my G chord. Here's my C. Here's my D chord. And then back to the 1 chord, G.
Now, most guitar players, when you're first starting out, would play maybe this, G, C, D, and back to a G. That's a lot of jumping around. So Jordan, I want you to show us what that would look like on piano, and you're gonna see how inefficient it is. On guitar, we really don't think about that, because it's like, yes, we get to rock out because we know a chord shape, right?
Yeah.
But just play that, and we'll take a look at it.
Okay, so here is that same chord progression, but this time we're just going to play the root notes. So here's my G chord. And then I'm going to play my C chord in root position, so the chord's going to look the same, but I got to jump all the way up here to play my C chord, and then my D chord is just 1 step over, and then I got to jump all the way back down to hit my G chord again.
Right, and sometimes you want that sound. If you're purposefully wanting those voicings, you're going to play those, and that's great.
Yep.
But a lot of times you don't want to jump around like that. Just same thing on guitar, right?
Yeah, totally. It's all about moving from chord to chord as efficiently as possible.
So again, if you've been following with us on this little series we've been doing on the cage sequence, all we're learning to do is learn how to move our main basic open major chords, C, A, G, E, and D, up the neck, just like you would with the E bar chord shape, right? The A, and the often forgotten or not explored G, C, and D shapes. You can do the exact same thing with those. C. And D, right? You can make this and treat them the exact same way you would your A shape, right? So Jordan, I'm going to get you to play the efficient 1-4-5 one more time for you and throw in the bass notes this time.
Sure.
Cool.
All right, so here is my right hand, my bass notes, again, just going to be the roots. So here's my G chord. Here's my C chord. Here's my D chord. And then back to the 1.
Cool. So most guitar players open G, C, and D, right? That's actually pretty efficient. You're not hopping around a lot.
Yeah.
But a big one would be a G with the E shape, C with the A shape, D with the A shape. And this is going to be kind of the intro or the idea that's going to springboard you into using all of these caged shapes or your fundamental open major chord shapes in a new way. So this G shape is great, the one with the E.
Yeah.
It's really efficient to move to the C with the A shape.
Yeah.
But that shift up may not always be the best option for you.
Right.
What you can do is use the C shape to play your D chord, and I'll show you how to do that. G with the E shape, C with the A shape, and check it out. If you use a C major chord and move it up 1 whole step, that is now a D chord. So it's super efficient.
Nice.
And the shape I'm using here is a little impractical because it's really tough to make. So what I end up doing is taking my pinky off and playing an inversion.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So just a 4-note version. I'm still thinking about that C shape, but now all of a sudden I'm going from this kind of cliche guitar sound and jumping around to this.
Cool.
And if you don't know what inversion is, if you've never heard of that before, I'm just going to get Jordan to explain it to you real quick, just because it's way easier to see on the piano than it is on the guitar. So that was a D chord.
Yeah.
Spelled D, F sharp, A. And then I took the root out and the third was in the bass. You want to show them what that looks like on piano?
Yeah, okay, so here's your D chord in root position. And if you want to make an inversion of this chord, all you have to do, as you said, we have our D, F sharp, and A, and those are the 3 ingredients that make up a D triad. To make an inversion, just take your D note that's below here and put that an octave higher. So now your F sharp is in the bass, F sharp, A, D. So that's the same ingredients of the chord. It's still a D chord, but it's moved up. It's a totally different position, and you can access different chords in a totally different way. You can take that concept one step further and play your F sharp note an octave higher, and then you have your A in the bass, D, and F sharp, and that's your second inversion of a D triad. And you can take that one more time, and then you're back home in root position. So same 3 notes, 3 totally different groupings and chord shapes, but the same chord each time.
Cool. And one way to think about this on guitar, another way, if you have your whole C shape and you're playing a G chord with it, but if you take that root off and then play the first inversion, it looks a little bit different on guitar because it's kind of dictated by the shape, what's next. And then if you play just the top 3 notes, that D shape, you have the second inversion with the 5th in the bass. Cool. So the idea behind getting these shapes down, the whole point behind it is to start making efficient ways and new ways to play simple chord progressions like this 1, 4, 5 in G.
Yeah.
Not only is that going to allow you to be more efficient with your movement, but it's going to give you options for which notes you have on top, which notes you have on the bottom, and things like that to express yourself better.
Yeah.
So that's the first one that I would recommend that you work on. G with the E shape, C with the A shape, D with the C shape, right? Another one that I really like is where you play a G major chord with an A shape, then you play a C major chord with a D shape. So that's just moving a D chord up until you get it to a C where your root notes are on a C. And a lot of times I won't hit that root note in there just because it's a little hard to play. And then maybe you could play a D chord using the E shape. So that's super efficient too. I'm not shifting at all when I do that. I can make a partial E there too. So that's a really good just exercise to go through and be aware of what chords you're playing and what shape you're using. I want to show you one more example just to kind of get your head wrapped around the idea of using these other shapes to play a simple 1, 4, 5 progression. You could play a G major chord using a D shape, and then think about the most efficient way to play that C chord. Where is it? It's going to be using a G shape to play a C chord. But that's a wicked chord to play, man. I hate doing that. Sometimes I have to.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I'll just play the top 4 notes with this little bar.
Nice.
Or that with a pinky bar and the B and high E strings. And then my D chord is right here. It's just an A-shaped D bar chord, right? So that's another really good position shift, or not position shift, like shape shift to get down. C, D. So we've gone from having just open chords to our typical bar chords, maybe mixing the E and A shapes, to the D, G shape, A shape, and then all the way up here to the A shape, D shape, playing a C chord, and then the E shape, playing a D chord. So you can see how knowing how to move all of your basic open major chords around and play through chord progressions can really open up the fretboard and just really get you an endless kind of world of voicings to choose from to express yourself on rhythm parts. And that's what we're going to do next. Jordan's going to play just a 1, 4, 5 progression. And I'm going to start off with just some open chords and maybe some standard bar chords. And maybe that won't be the most appropriate thing to hear over there, because when you have a piano player, he has a left hand and he has all the bass, and it can be pretty full sounding. So maybe I'll switch to some more sparse voicings, maybe like this G, this C, this D.
Cool.
For the more upper register. Okay, there's the 1, 4, 5, and then I'm just going to play some open chords over that. 2, 3, 4. So let's pretty similar to what George has played as far as tonality. Got some bar chords. Still kind of similar. Now some different voicings, a little higher. Maybe a little more complimentary. So this is just the beginning of what you can do, because that was just one chord progression. And I like to think of this as kind of a game, especially when I'm playing a church gig or something, because those chord progressions are pretty simple. How can I make the best, most interesting voice leading using just these shapes? It's a fun tool. It's maybe a little bit difficult for you at first to think about and get down where the root notes are and where all the locations of these chords are, but it's going to have a huge payoff when you're playing, not only in your rhythm guitar playing, but your lead guitar playing too. So be sure as a starting point to just work on those open chord shapes, putting them with a bar, moving them all the way up the fretboard. Same thing with the A. Don't neglect the G, and remember all you have to do is play the top 4 notes for your G. The C, same thing, you can just play the top 4 strings without, just visualizing the root. And then the D too. This concept did a lot for my playing, man, but unfortunately when I first learned it, I had no idea why I was learning it. Nobody showed me how to apply it to music. So what I want to hear from you in the comments is what one thing has had the biggest impact on your playing. It can be the cage system, it can be 3-note per string scales, music theory, whatever it is. And if you'd like some support and a lot of great step-by-step lessons, visit Guitario for an ultra supportive community and a fun hang. Thanks, Jordan, for the help with this lesson.
You're very welcome, man. Thanks
and
for
if you want to play piano, if you're interested in that, check out what?
Check out pianote.com. We got tons of great lessons on chord inversions, cool scales, ways to solo, ways to learn and write music. Anything piano related, check out pianote.com.
We'll see you later.
All right.